Okay, how's it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. Okay, so in this episode, I thought I'd try to say something about a very famous quote that comes from the Greek Stoic philosopher Epictetus. So you've probably heard the famous Shakespeare quote from Hamlet, right? Namely, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Or if not, you might have heard what John Milton said in Paradise Lost. He said, "The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven." Well, I'm not sure if they got this from Epictetus, but he said something very similar, which is the quote that I want to discuss today. What he said is this. He said, "What upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about these things." Okay, so what does he mean by this? Well, ultimately, I think what he wants to communicate here is that we're all responsible for our own good or happiness. Or to put it the other way around, we're all accountable for our own misfortune or unhappiness. In other words, our well-being is up to us. And so if we suffer or get anxious or whatever it may be exactly, that is self-inflicted. You might say, therefore, that for Epictetus, there is no such a thing as being a victim. As Epictetus himself says, when we're frustrated, angry, or unhappy, never hold anyone except ourselves and our judgments accountable. So, in some way then, we're always going to be complicit in our negative emotions. Okay, but now let's get into some more detail. Let's try to figure out what he's saying exactly. Okay, so according to Epictetus, it's not really accurate to say that an external event of some kind is bad or disturbing. And that's because whenever someone gets disturbed, the real cause of that is their judgment about that event, not the event itself. In other words, events themselves are, well, they're completely value neutral. It's we who project or impart value, good or bad, to these things through our judgments or interpretations of them. So let's consider an example here. So let's take the example of, of having your wallet stolen, let's say. Okay, so you discover that somebody stole your wallet. Now, that's an event that did happen. It's a fact. Okay, but here's the thing. For Epictetus, this itself is not enough to be disturbed or harmed by it. No, that's because in order for this to happen, you must believe that you're being harmed by it. That's to say, you must hold the opinion or the judgment that losing some money is harmful or bad or tragic for you. And as it turns out, according to Epictetus at least, it's actually not bad for you if you know what's truly valuable in life. But anyway, the point is that it's really about how it is we want to interpret what happens to us. That's the key here. In this way, it's in our power to transcend whatever might befall us. So I would say that the main point that Epictetus is making is that we would spare ourselves a lot of unnecessary pain or anxiety if we could learn to take a moment before reacting to whatever external events befalls us and understand that it's always possible to alter our attitude or judgment or our reaction towards those events. Actually, now that I think about it, the psychologist Viktor Frankl had a really good way of describing what Epictetus was saying. He said this. He said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So there's this space. That's a good way of putting it. There's an open space. This fissure of being, as the existentialists would put it. This fissure between events that impinge on us from the external world and our response. In other words, we are not identical to the world. We're not identical to things. No, there's this layer of mediation between us and the world. There's this freedom that we have to reinterpret, to reframe, to reboot. That is, it's through this cognitive distancing that we're able to separate our thoughts from external reality and adjust ourselves accordingly. Now, all this is pretty incredible and inspiring, isn't it? I mean, through our power of interpretation, through our power of judgment, we're the ones largely in control. We're the ones in charge of our emotions, and we're the ones that introduce values onto a world that, like I said, is actually value neutral. And by the way, Epictetus knew well how all of this worked. He clearly manifested it in his own life. I mean, he was born into slavery in what is now Turkey, and he even had to endure a crippled leg. But through all this, he remained calm and happy and even grateful. And so ultimately, our happiness is, well, it's entirely up to us. We can make a heaven out of hell. And that's what Epicurus meant when he said that what upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about these things. Bye for now.